Hello, today I'm looking at Majjhima number 75, which is the Magandiya Sutta, or the conversation with Magandiya. Now, it's quite long, so I may put in the comments sort of a natural break point if you want to watch it in two parts. So the location is the Kuru country at a town called Kamasamida, and it's in the set in the fire chamber of a Brahmin of the Bharadvaja clan. Now, looking up, the fire chamber is in fact defined as sort of a ceremonial place where fire worship takes place, and that's in the Vedic tradition. And the people involved in this sutta are Buddha and a wanderer by the name of Magandiya, and also a Brahmin of the Bharadvaja clan. Excuse me. So the sutta starts with describing Buddha's alms round in the town of Kamasamida, then going to a grove for the day's abiding. Then it describes the wanderer Magandiya going to the Brahmin's fire chamber, noticing the grass mattress, and asking the Brahmin who the grass mattress was for. And the Brahmin replies that it has been prepared for Master Gautama, whom the Brahmin describes as being accomplished, fully enlightened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, knower of worlds. But Magandiya replies that it is a sad sight to see the bed of that destroyer of growth, Master Gautama. So Magandiya is defining Buddha as probably being a repressionist and puritanical. The Brahmin cautions Magandiya about what he is saying, as many learned Brahmins, householders and recluses have been taught by and have full confidence in Master Gautama. But Magandiya persists in his view and would tell Master Gautama to his face that he, Gautama, is a destroyer of growth. And why do I say that, says Magandiya? Because that has been established in our conversations. Buddha gets to hear of Magandiya's remarks, and the sutta then goes on to describe Magandiya's meeting up with Buddha when Buddha returns to the fire chamber after his day's abiding. And after the usual exchanges of greetings, Buddha says to Magandiya, "Magandiya, the eye delights in forms and shapes. This has been tamed by the Tathagata, guarded, protected, restrained, and he teaches the Dhamma for its restraint. Was it with reference to this that you said the recluse Gautama is a destroyer of growth?" "That is so," replies Magandiya, "because it is recorded in our scriptures." Now, that's the word used by Bikkhu Bodhi in his translation. But then in his audio narrative, he says scriptures is probably the wrong word, as it wasn't written down. And he's changed it to narratives. So it's written down in, or sorry, not written down. It is known in the narratives of Magandiya's sect. This conversation then repeats about what the Tathagata knows. For the ear, which delights in sounds, the nose delights in smells, the tongue delights in tastes, the body delights in touch, and the mind delights in thoughts. And for each instance, Magandiya again asserts that Master Gautama is a destroyer of growth, because that is known through our narratives. Buddha then says, "What would you say, Magandiya? Someone who previously enjoyed himself with forms cognizable to the eye that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, but connected with sense desire and provocative of lust. And on a later occasion, having understood as they actually are, the origin, the disappearance, the gratification, the danger in the case of forms, he might abandon his craving for forms cognizable by the eye, remove his fever for forms, and then abide without thirst, with the mind inwardly at peace. What would you say to him, Magandiya?" "Nothing, Master Gotama," came the reply. And in turn, Buddha repeats the question to Magandiya, referring to the items cognizable to the nose, to the ear, the tongue, the body. And in each case, Magandiya replies that he would say nothing. "So," Buddha continues, "Magandiya, before, when I lived the home life, I enjoyed myself, being endowed with the 5 chords of sense pleasure. I had 3 palaces, one for the rainy season, one for winter, one for summer. I lived in the rain palace for 4 months, attended only by women. However, later, having understood as they actually are the origin, the disappearance, the gratification, the danger and the escape in the case of sensual pleasures, I abandoned the craving. I removed the fever for sense pleasures, and I abided without thirst, with a mind inwardly at peace. I see other beings who are not free from lust for sense pleasures, being devoured by craving for sense pleasures, burning with fever for sense pleasures, indulging in sensual pleasures. I do not envy them, nor do I delight therein. And why is that? Because there is, Magandiya, a delight apart from sense pleasures, apart from unwholesome states, which surpasses even divine bliss. Since I take delight in that, I do not envy what is inferior, nor do I delight therein." Buddha then poses a question to Magandiya about a householder with great wealth, who has everything that could be desired by way of sense pleasures, and having conducted himself well in body and speech, on the dissolution of the body after death, he perhaps reappears in a happy destination, in a heavenly world, and there also enjoys himself in the company of nymphs and gods. Now, suppose he saw a householder enjoying himself with all sense pleasures. What do you think, Magandiya? Would that new young god, surrounded by nymphs and enjoying himself, would he envy the householder? "No, Master Gotama," came the reply from Magandiya, "because divine sense pleasures are more excellent and sublime than human sense pleasures." Then Buddha makes the parallel that he too once enjoyed household life with its riches and sense pleasures as a householder. But now he has gone beyond that, abandoned craving for sense pleasures with a mind inwardly at peace. And now I see other beings who are not free from lust for sense pleasures, being devoured by craving for sense pleasures. I do not envy them, because there is a delight apart from sense pleasures which surpasses even divine bliss. Since I take delight in that, I do not envy what is inferior. Suppose, Magandiya, there was a leper with sores and blisters on his limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching the scabs off the openings to his wounds with his nails, cauterizing his body over a burning charcoal pit. Then his friends, kin, and companions would bring a physician to treat him. The physician would make of a medicine, treat the leper, and cure him. The man, cured of his leprosy, would be well and happy, independent, able to go where he likes. Then the cured man might see another leper with sores and blisters, being devoured by worms, scratching his scabs, cauterizing his body over a burning charcoal pit. What do you think, Magandiya? Would the cured man envy that leper for his burning charcoal pit or his use of medicine? No, Master Gotama, because when there is a sickness, there is need of medicine, and when there is no sickness, there is no need of medicine. Buddha then makes the point again. So too, formerly, when I lived the home life, enjoyed the home life, rich with its pleasures, but now I have gone beyond that, abandoned craving for sense pleasures, with a mind inwardly at peace. I do not envy what is inferior. Buddha continues, repeating the story of the leper, with sores and blisters, being devoured by worms, cauterizing his body over a burning charcoal pit. And here too his friends, companions, kinsmen and relatives brought a physician to treat him, gave him medicine and cured him. The leper would be cured, become well, happy, independent, able to go where he likes. Then two strong men would seize him by his arms, drag him towards a burning charcoal pit. What do you think, Magandiya? Would that man twist his body this way and that? Yes, Master Gotama, because that fire is painful to touch, hot and scorching. So what do you think, Magandiya? Is it only now that the fire is painful to touch, hot and scorching? Or previously too was that fire painful to touch, hot and scorching? Master Gotama, on both occasions the fire was hot and painful to touch. But before, when the man was a leper with sores and blisters, devoured by worms, scratching, scabs, his faculties were impaired. That although the fire was actually painful to touch, he acquired a mistaken perception it was pleasant. Buddha replies, so too, Magandiya. In the past, sense pleasures were painful to touch, hot and scorching. In the future, sense pleasures will be painful to touch, hot and scorching. And now, in the present, sense pleasures are painful to touch, hot and scorching. But these beings who are not free from lust for sense pleasures, who are devoured by craving for sense pleasures, who burn with fever for sense pleasures, they have faculties that are impaired. So, although sense pleasures are actually painful to touch, they acquire a mistaken perception of them as being pleasant. Buddha then continues, suppose, Magandiya, there was a leper with sores and blisters on his limbs, devoured by worms, scratching scabs off his open wounds, cauterizing his body over a burning charcoal pit. But the more he scratches and cauterizes his body, the fouled, more evil-smelling and more infected his wounds would become. Yet he would find a certain measure of satisfaction and enjoyment in scratching the openings of his wounds. So too, Magandiya, beings who are not free from lust for sense pleasures, who are devoured by craving for sense pleasures, who burn with fever for sense pleasures, they still indulge in sense pleasures. The more such beings indulge in sense pleasures, the more their craving for sense pleasures and the more they are burned by their fever for sense pleasures. Yet they find a certain measure of satisfaction and enjoyment, independence in the five chords of sense pleasures. So what do you think, Magandiya? Have you ever seen or heard of a king enjoying himself, provided with the five sense pleasures, who without abandoning craving for sense pleasures, without removing fever for sense pleasures, was able to abide free from thirst with a mind inwardly at peace? No, Master Gotama, came the reply. Good, said Buddha, neither have I. In fact, those recluses and Brahmins who abide free from thirst and mind inwardly at peace, all do so after having understood, as they actually are, the origin, the disappearance, the gratification, the danger and the escape in the case of sense pleasures. It is only after abandoning craving for sense pleasures and removing fever from sense pleasures that they abide free from thirst and a mind inwardly at peace. Buddha then said, the greatest of all gains in health, the greatest of all gains is health. Nibbana is the greatest bliss. The Eightfold Path is the best of paths, for it leads to the deathless, or that is, to enlightenment. Magandiya says it is great to hear this. How well it is expressed. The greatest of all gains is health. Nibbana is the greatest bliss. We too have heard earlier wanderers who were teachers saying exactly the same thing. over there. But, Magandiya, when you previously heard this, what is that health? What is that nibbana? Magandiya rubbed his own limbs. This is that health, Master Gotama. This is that nibbana, for I am healthy and happy and nothing afflicts me. The allegory now changes, so the sutta continues. Magandiya, Buddha begins, suppose there was a man born blind who could not see anything. He might hear a man with good eyesight say, "Good indeed, sirs, is a white cloth, beautiful, soft, spotless and clean." So the blind man would go in search of a white cloth. Then a man would cheat him with a soiled garment thus, "Good sir, here for you is a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean." And the blind man would accept it, put it on, and being satisfied with it, say, "Good indeed, sirs, is a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean." So, Magandiya, Buddha asks, when that blind man accepted the dirty, soiled garment, put it on, uttered words of satisfaction, did he do so knowing and seeing, or did he do so out of faith in the man with good eyesight? "Venerable sir," replied Magandiya, "he would have done so unknowing and unseeing, out of faith in the man with good eyesight." So too, Magandiya, Buddha responds, the wanderers of other sects are blind and visionless. They do not know health, they do not know nibbana, yet they utter this stanza thus, "The greatest of all gains is health, nibbana is the greatest bliss." This stanza was uttered by the fully enlightened one thus, "The greatest of all gains is health, nibbana is the greatest bliss." The Eightfold Path is the best of paths, for it leads to safety, to the deathless. You, Magandiya, do not have that noble vision by which you might know health and see nibbana. Magandiya replies, "But I have confidence in Master Gotama. He is capable of teaching me the Dhamma in such a way that I can come to know health and see nibbana." So, Buddha says, suppose there was a man born totally blind, and friends and kinsmen brought a physician to treat him. The physician would make up a medicine for him, but the man's vision does not arise. What do you think, Magandiya? Would that doctor reap weariness and disappointment? Yes, Master Gotama. Well, so too, Magandiya. If I were to teach you the Dhamma, thus, this is that health, this is that nibbana, you might not recognize that health and that nibbana, and that would be wearisome and troublesome for me. But I have confidence in Master Gotama, Magandiya responds. Master Gotama is capable of teaching me the Dhamma in such a way that I can come to know health and to see nibbana. Magandiya, suppose there was a man born blind, totally blind. He might hear a man with good eyesight say, "Good indeed, sirs, a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean." And the blind man would go in search of a white cloth. And a man would cheat him with a dirty, soiled garment thus, "Good man, here is a white cloth for you, beautiful, spotless and clean." And the blind man would accept it and put it on. Then his friends, companions and kinsmen bring a physician to treat him. The physician makes a medicine, treats the blind man, and the blind man's sight arises. Together with the arising of his sight, the blind man's liking for the dirty, soiled garment would be abandoned. He might burn the garment and feel indignation and enmity towards the man who sold him the garment. Thus, I have long been tricked, cheated, and defrauded by this man. So too, Magandiya, if I were to teach the Dharma thus, this is that health, this is that nibbana, you might know health and see nibbana, together with the arising of your vision, your desire and your lust for the five aggregates affected by clinging might be abandoned. Then perhaps you too might think, I have been tricked and defrauded by this mind. For when clinging, I have just been clinging to material form. I've just been clinging to feeling, to perception, to formations, to consciousness. And with my clinging as condition, being. And with my being as condition, birth. And with birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair come about. Such is the origin of the whole mass of suffering. Magandiya replies, I have confidence in Master Gotama. Master Gotama is capable of teaching me the Dharma in such a way that I might rise up from this seat cured of my blindness. Then, replies Buddha, associate with true men. When you associate with true men, you will hear the true Dhamma. And when you hear the true Dhamma, you will practice in accordance with the true Dhamma. And when you practice in accordance with the Dhamma, the true Dhamma, you will know and see yourself thus. They are diseases, tumours and darts, but here they will cease without remainder. With the cessation of clinging comes cessation of being. With the cessation of being comes the cessation of birth. With the cessation of birth comes the cessation of aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Such is the cessation of the whole mass of suffering. Magandiya responds, Magnificent, Master Gotama. Master Gotama has made the Dhamma clear in many ways. I go to Master Gotama for refuge, to the Dhamma, to the Sangha of monks. I would receive the going forth and full admission. Buddha points out that as Magandiya formerly belonged to another sect, he must live on probation for 4 months before gaining full admission. If the monks are satisfied with him, he will be granted full admission. But Buddha recognizes this may be difficult for Magandiya. Magandiya responds that he is quite willing to be on probation for 4 years. And then the sutta concludes with stating that Magandiya received full admission, and by dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent and resolute, he realized for himself with a direct knowledge, entered and abided in the supreme goal of the holy life, for which people go forth from the home life to the homelessness. He directly knew that birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what has to be done has been done, there is no more coming to any state of being. So the Venerable Magandiya becomes one of the Arahants. And there ends Majjhima number 75. Thanks for watching.